welcome back to the Creative Shelf, and you're joining me on a dry autumnal evening in Brussels. So welcome to new subscribers and welcome back to those who've already subscribed to this channel and know me. I am doing videos on, right now it's Tarot and Oracle decks, but I think there is a need for me to move into books because that's where I began basically. But yeah, my focus is mainly on this shelf and all the things that are in it. And strangely, I probably should have said this before, but I know this is really weird, but what you're seeing is like 3 layers deep in because that's how much stuff I cram onto these shelves. But saying that, slightly relevant, today's topic, you might be thinking, what the hell is Shein? And you know Black Friday, but like what's Shein and why is she talking about it on this channel and what's it got to do with us and what's it got to do with books and Tarot and Oracle decks and etc, etc, etc. And of course, everybody probably by now knows about minimalism and the term of minimalism. I don't want to go into it too much. It's not my thing. I don't love it. So I'm kind of like going to cover this area because initially, 2 weeks ago when I was already thinking about this, I thought, well, it's not really relevant to the people on the curator shelf. And then I've seen some videos lately from YouTubers, not necessarily in the tarot community or anything, but they had stuff to say which was so relevant that, yeah, I just couldn't ignore it. That's how I'm going to put it. I just couldn't ignore what I'd heard, what I'd seen. And there are things that are kind of like connecting it back to some of the content I've produced, some of the topics that I've spoken about, and some of my own buying basically as well, some of my own purchasing as well. And I'm just kind of like walking a middle ground myself where even I don't have all of my perfect values and principles in place and I've got it all sorted and I've got all the stats and I've got all the info. I don't have all of that in place. This is like a conversation starter more, and it's not to talk down to anyone or to say that you know, you should know blah blah blah. And the other thing is I want to be really, really clear. This is not directed to somebody within the YouTube community or some tarot tube or whoever. It's not directed towards anyone because somebody might feel like they're being targeted and they're not. This is more about a discussion that I've seen and it's on my mind. And at first I thought, if I talk about this, I'm going to lose subscribers. And then I thought, well, that's great. There goes my values. So here you go. So Shein, what is it and why am I talking about it? So Shein is a company. It's a company in China. It produces a mass amount of retail items, specifically clothing, and its target is towards the Gen Z. That's the like the consumers it's targeting. Many have now listed it as ultra cheap clothing. I personally have never visited the website. Maybe I should have done that before I did this video, but I know there's apparently like you can get a jumper for like €3 or something like that. It's even cheaper than Primark or Primani, as we used to say in the UK, but it's cheaper than Primark, and it's just it's putting per day. And this was the stat. This was the stat that kind of like when I heard it, I wanted to kind of like in between vomit and like I was in shock. I was like, I just wanted to vomit actually. It is dropping 700 to 1,000 new items on its line every day. Yeah, 700 to 1,000 new items every day in its line. So first of all, let me just say that I have known for ages from what I've heard, and you might be thinking, why is she talking about fashion on this channel? But just please bear with me and stay with me. But I have heard that like people have ordered a dress and it looks nothing like what they've ordered, or yeah, I don't know, you order a bikini and you get like, I don't know, 2 strings and a piece of cloth and that's supposed to be a bikini. I don't know what. I have not ordered from it. It's not my stuff. It's not my thing. I'm like an old-fashioned girl these days. I just stick to like the brands that I know and yeah, whatever. But anyway, when I heard that stat, I just wanted to vomit, not just because of the fact that it is massively, of course, causing a lot of damage, I think, to young people. That's what I personally think. But of course, also the damage to the environment and blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, fill in the blanks yourself. You all know it. She's gonna talk about carbon emissions and all that. Yes, I am. But basically, that's what I'm referring to. But also the damage it does to like the 13-year-old that wants to fit in at school, and she wants those shoes and she wants to look like the rest of them. You know, I've been there. I've been that 13-year-old kid where like your mum's like, I can't afford that. So then you might go onto a website. I mean, in those days we didn't have online shopping, but you know, these days I can imagine some 13-year-old kid going, oh, but I can buy the shoes for like €6. I'll just get them myself. So, you know, I just want to say that like, it's not just about the damage to the environment, but it's damage to, I think, people's brains, like kids' brains basically. And I want to talk about it because that number, that staggering figure, just, I heard it already like 10 days ago. And then, you know, I've seen celebrities promote it, and it just made me think, oh my God, whoa. Now, I don't do like clothing videos, as you know. I love clothing, but I don't do those kind of videos. And one of the reasons why I decided not to do videos in that area was because I just saw so much overconsumption, and I just saw so many people being damaged by it, and myself being affected by it, that I just couldn't entertain it anymore. I was like, I don't want to go down that line. So I give great kudos to those fashion vloggers who have acknowledged this, have spoken about it, and have flagged it as an issue. But this video also talks about minimalism. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to Tarot and Oracle as well in a moment. Just bear with me. But it also talks about minimalism and why I don't like that either. So just bear with me as I make my way through this whole train of content. And you're thinking, why is she talking about this on a Saturday evening? But there you go. So just checking my notes here. So basically, when I heard that stat, and I've heard that 70% of its products have been produced in the last 3 months. Can you imagine that? 70%? So I'm thinking, where do they go? Like after 3 months, like where do they dissipate into? And I'm thinking they're probably being ejected into space as like junk maybe? I don't know. Or like probably you're eating them in your fish because they're at the bottom of the ocean. I don't know basically, but that was staggering. And the YouTuber that I specifically just want to say a big thank you to, she doesn't know me, I don't think she'll ever know me, but I do follow her, is Justine Leconte. She is a French fashion designer in Germany who produces her own clothing line, which is sustainable, and she talks about sustainability, she talks about fair pricing, she talks about paying workers properly, she talks about the whole supply chain from beginning to end. She also talks about fashion, of course, as well. But Justine Leconte is someone who I've been following for 4 or 5 years. I find her to be incredibly genuine and authentic in what she says. And I will link the video below where she talks about Shein, because when I saw that come up, and I haven't been listening to Justine recently that much, you know, I on and off listen to her stuff. But when I saw those figures, I saw Justine talk about it, I was just like, oh my God, like. And the reason why I'm going to get to it, so now we're like 8 minutes in, so you're like, why is she talking about this on the curated shelf, right? Is that because there has been something on my mind for the last couple of months. So I came into tarot, like I've said, like many years ago, and then I kind of was like, okay, this is not doing it for me, or whatever it was, and I left it. Anyway, I came back to it last year during the quarantine situation, and I saw lovely new decks, and I was like, ooh, I would like to try it again, actually. So, and also somebody did a reading for me just spontaneously. I hadn't asked for it. They pulled some cards, and the cards they pulled were beautiful. And so I kind of like was like, wow, I didn't know cards like that existed, right? So I've spoken about that many times. And in case you're wondering, and you might not have seen the video, the deck that I'm referring to, where somebody had used the cards from this deck, sorry, bear with me, is from the Angel and Ancestors Kyle Gray deck. They pulled cards from this, they did a whole plateau, but basically they pulled cards from this deck, and it was just so beautiful. They've done, sorry, a whole tableau, I should say, sorry. And anyway, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous Hay House deck by Kyle Gray, art by Lily Moses, matte cardstock, absolutely stunning. And this is the deck that I bought then right at the beginning in August 2020 when I came back to Tarot and Oracle decks. And I just thought it was gorgeous, you know, and very soft and subtle but strong. I don't know how else to put it, but yeah, it's the deck that just, I don't know how else to put it, but it's just been done very tastefully. That's the word I'm going to say, tastefully. And Kyle Gray has great messages in his guidebook that he's produced. And of course, as already mentioned, art is by Lily Moses. So this is a mass market deck for about, I don't know, 15 to 20 euros, averaging somewhere around there. But anyway, this is why I came back to Tarot and Oracle decks. This is the one that grabbed me and made me think, maybe I don't know it. So anyway, what does this have to do, this part of my story have to do with Shein? And I'm going to come back to it, so bear with me. It has to do with Shein because as I've been buying Tarot and Oracle decks, increasingly, I've also seen decks and people like them. I like them too. Don't get me wrong, I like them too. But there was a certain aesthetic, and I couldn't understand originally. I was like, and we've all seen it, it's the Disney-esque like aesthetic. And now don't get me wrong again, some of those decks, I mean, they're beautiful. I mean, I like them. But I couldn't understand what I was seeing. And I remember thinking, so when I began, like, you know, one of the decks I had in 2015 was the Paulina Tarot, which I've already shown quite a few times. And now I'm seeing decks where I'm seeing kind of like these kind of like very young images. And now you know the train of thought I'm going to. I won't get it out now actually, because otherwise we're going to lose time. But I started to think, what's going on here? Now this has been on my mind for about September, some point, where I started to piece together, and it occurred to me. And by the way, before you shoot me down on this whole thing, I am someone that has traditionally shopped fast fashion. I'm not going to lie about it, definitely. But I remember a time in my life where I would walk into a shop and look at the clothing and think, oh my God, I'm just too old for this. I mean, like, pardon my language, but I'm just too old for this. Like, I don't have ripped abs anymore, basically. So I remember thinking, oh. And there was a point in my life where I realized this is aimed towards, of course, it's aimed towards teenagers, where my 19-year-old self would have loved it, basically. And the reason why, and I'm going to pick up a deck, because sometimes I like doing these kind of discussions with a deck in my hand. But the reason why I want to talk about it is because I started to think, maybe in the Tarot and Oracle world, they're also targeting the young kids. I think it's okay. I mean, I don't know what to say about children using Tarot and Oracle decks. You know, the parents know better. So I think it's okay in that sense of like when we're young trying to figure things out. I need that kind of stuff. I wish I had that actually, where I had some kind of tool with pictures to help me realize, you know, as I was trying to process life. And I think some of you have already heard me mention sometimes decks where I'm going back in time and I'm going back to my teenage self, because I had things happen when I was younger, which I had to deal with when I got into my 20s, because basically it was the impact was so enormous that I'd basically somehow blacked out what was happening when I was in my teens and younger. So I'm all for something that can help younger people, but it's the targeting that I'm not sure about. And that's why the Shein and then the Black Friday discussions I wanted to bring in was because it's been on my mind lately that and also because of the fact that I'm hearing it from everywhere, where Tarot and Oracle decks, like you've got like 10 decks coming out every day. Now, I don't follow the shopping, like the stuff that much. I really don't. Like, I see most of the decks that are coming out because somebody else has posted this new deck and I'm like, great, or like upcoming decks. And I'm like, oh, great, interesting. But, or sometimes when I'm on a website like Amazon or Book Depository, you have like the new stuff that's coming through. And that's how I figure out, oh, okay, so this is coming out. But one of the things, I'm just playing with playing with a tarot deck because sometimes it's soothing. And the one that I'm looking at right now, you might be wondering what she got in her hand, is Tarot of Mystical Moments. So I picked this up in August. It had been released in February. It's a US games deck. The artist is Katrin Wellstein. She also, of course, I know her because of Paper Blanks, and she's a German artist, as I understand. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. But you can see it here. I picked this up, but it took me 6 months to get it because basically it was out of stock here in Europe. It had completely sold out. and then it took another 6 months for it to come through. So I finally got it in August, and I think by the time I got it, like my whole buzz about it had gone, because it was like, oh, I really want this, and then I couldn't get it. And then by the time I finally got it, I was like, it was a bit of like a anti-climax actually. So this poor deck has just sat on the shelf because I was a bit annoyed about the whole thing that I couldn't get it when I wanted to get it. But it is a gorgeous deck. So I've been looking at it lately going, I think it's time now that I work with you. And it's got these subtle grays and greens and just these colors that I don't know why, but I'm finding it really, really, I think it's because of the fact that Belgium, we have this cloud cover constantly, and this skyline, these drawings are just really just, yeah, they're very, I mean, this could look like Brussels basically, but this is like our skyline. And so that's why it's drawing me in, because I think it's really kind of like reminding me of the ambience in the sky and the gray skies right now. So anyway, this is the deck that I'm playing with as I do this discussion, but I wanted to talk about that because I've got this odd feeling that, are we going into that space in other areas, including books and all that kind of stuff? Now, one of the great things is that I've recently seen on social media the younger generation reading again, really getting into books, and I think that's fantastic. So there's, by no means am I saying don't read, please read. I think it's great. I think it's great because of course it strengthens the bond with the language, whichever language you're reading in and so forth, and of course understanding, writing and so forth. So reading is a vital part, I think, of just our brain and keeping our brain active actually as well. But what I was a little bit kind of like taken aback by in the last few months is when I realized this targeting towards the younger generation, which is happening anyway, but when I started to think, I thought, is this happening in the Tarot and Oracle world? Now, maybe I'm extrapolating too much. Maybe you're thinking, she's gone too far on this one. But it's been a food for thought in me. And the other thing I want to tie it to, and it was quite funny, was that I went to my local tarot boutique last night. Was it last night? They sell indie decks. And I put them in, and I was like, okay, let's just see what they've got right now. And there was this big slide. I was like, okay. And there was like it was like a PowerPoint presentation that they put kind of like just rotating on their website, and it said Black Friday, and I was like, right, okay. Now, as I understand, in the US, Black Friday is next week, right? So there's Black Friday, and then there's Cyber Monday and all this kind of stuff. So by the way, Black Friday only got popular really on continental Europe around 2016, 2017. Until then, it wasn't really a big thing here. And it's kind of like already died here. But anyway, it said Black Friday. So I was like, okay. And then the next slide said, we're not doing Black Friday. And then it said, because Black Friday is not real. The discounts aren't basically real. It says something like that. And, I love them for it because they're just being honest. They said, you're not really going to get a discount. It's just a bit of a, come and just shop. And it always reminds me, Black Friday always reminds me of several things. But one of them, rambling on here, is I remember when I was talking to a friend, we went past a billboard, or I can't remember where it was, but we went past something, and I don't know what it was. Was it perfume? Was it boots? Was it, I don't know what it was. But I said, look, 20% off. And she said, yeah, great. If only I could afford the other 80%. And I still remember that moment, the truth of a sale kind of thing. And so I want to talk about this because I'm not saying don't shop on Black Friday or anything like that, whatever. But I really don't care. Your money, do what you want. My money, I do what I want as well. If I want to shop, I'm going to shop. But it does make me think when it becomes a surge. And I don't think many people fall for it anymore these days either. I think loads of people don't. I think most people, I don't know, many people are clued up about it. but it's because of the fact that it just infiltrates so many areas of life. You know, we've gone from electronics to clothing to this and that, and just so you know, like, I know with some of my websites, like here they have like sometimes 10% off on Black Friday. And by the way, we don't get here in Belgium for some stuff like Tarot and Oracle decks, we don't get sale prices at all. So I know with US Games and with Llewellyn in the US, you have access to sales and so forth. We don't get any of those discounts. So sometimes for me, it does work out cheaper to look for when I've got a discount code going on, because then I can afford it basically. But I just want to be clear here that, like, it's been an interesting moment in the last few weeks. So does any of this make sense? Does my ramble make any of sense? I don't know. I would love, you know, I'm always gonna like add and cull my collection, or add and cull to the books that I have. Like, the books recently haven't been rotated quite a lot, but that's because when we went into lockdown, nothing was open, like no charity places, so I couldn't even declutter, let alone buy stuff. It was just ridiculous. So I do need to, you know, I have been recently getting rid of stuff on the shelves, but it's been interesting the last couple of weeks, you know. And the story of Shein has really become, I think, a big thing, you know, for me, because it's just shown me over like 5-6 years how that consumerism, the are we getting to the height of it? Is this the peak of it, where a brand is dropping 1,000 pieces on its sale line every day? Or is it even going to go further? You know, are we, you know, if I'm hearing those who've been in the Tarot and Oracle communities, even themselves openly saying on camera, like, there, you know, there's so many decks coming out every day these days, kind of thing, you know. It's a great thing because we have lots of diversity in terms of choice, which I think is a good thing, because even I can get bored with like 5 decks. But it does make me wonder. And yeah, so I don't know if this has been an interesting thing. I'm just checking my notes in terms of, like, you know, minimalism. And I just want to say a bit on that, because I know that some people might feel like, am I kind of like saying we should need to go towards minimalism? Oh, look at that, she's so beautiful. To be clear, no, I don't think I want to go towards any kind of minimalism. And I'll say why. Not because the principle of minimalism is wrong or anything like that, or decluttering is wrong, nothing like that. But it's because I think that there's a bit of a, like, I think there's a whole hijacking of the word and consumerism around minimalism, which I think is also a bit of, like, I've seen people, you know, being driven to, like, I'm going to live only with like 3 pairs of jeans and 5 t-shirts and 2 blazers, and I'm going to make it. And I'm like, really? Let's be real. So, you know, like those white t-shirts and those jeans, when you need to go to a wedding, you're gonna be looking for something. Let's be clear. So I'm not saying, like, you know, or even if it was a shelf, I'm sorry, I'm not going to read like the same book over and over again. Obviously, I'm going to buy stuff and all of that. So I don't want to drive someone or say that, like, time to get down to like 3 decks for the rest of your life, like, because that's the stuff that would have driven me mad too. But so that's why I'm just saying at the end of this whole video, and this like really long speech, why I'm not into that fad, because the fad of also decreasing a lot for me is also an extreme that is not real for me to who I am. Like, I want to enjoy as well. And, you know, I saw recently a deck that another tarot tuber had done a reading. They'd done a reading in front of the camera, and as she did it, I fell in love with the deck. It was just so beautifully done. It went onto my list. Nothing wrong with that. So it's not about, like, you know, must never buy kind of thing. It's just, yeah, it's just some of the figures and some of the stuff that I've seen has made me wonder about what's the direction we're going in. So I'm going to shut up. We're 25 minutes in. let me know. Let me know, like, maybe you've got stuff on your wish list and you're gonna say, I want to get that stuff, and get it. Like, enjoy it. Um, don't buy from Shein. I should say that. Buy from where you want to buy, but I can't say don't buy from here or don't buy from there. I just want to be clear on some of the stuff that like has just really, really shocked me. So hopefully, wishing you lots of wishing you a really good weekend. Sorry, I should end this, and see you next week. Bye now.